Welcome, friends! Do you see this mysterious creature here with a fancy panther print? Today I'm going to tell you all about it. Why does it have such a comically large abdomen? Where does it even come from? Well, for that we must visit the Atlas Mountains in Morocco, North Africa. The Atlas Mountains are a mountain range in North Africa that constitutes a very unique habitat. It separates the Mediterranean and Atlantic coastlines from the Sahara, and they stretch around 2,500 kilometers through Morocco, Algeria and Tunisia. Its environment is mostly pretty hot, barren and dry, although some of the parts of the mountains that receive more precipitation can actually be more green and forested. The Atlas Mountains also contain many unique plants and animals, for example Macaca sylvanus, the Barbary macaque, Cervus elaphus barbarus, the Atlas deer, Panthera pardus panthera, the Barbary leopard, and Felis libica, or the wild cat. Now these all sound very fascinating, but another unique species here is the tiger moth Maurica joiceyi. Perhaps less sought after by biologists, but entomologists will go crazy for this one. This interesting little creature comes from the high Atlas. The animals in this video were originally collected for study in the village of Ait el-Kak on an elevation of 2,600 meters in the high Atlas. A place that, because of its high altitude, does have a colder winter season and even snow, but it also has a hot and dry summer. As far as I know, this animal is described from Morocco and endemic to the higher Atlas Mountains, where it has to survive in both hot and dry, but also cold and icy conditions. And before you ask, no, I did not collect them myself. I must give credit to all the other hobbyists and colleagues I have in Europe that obtained the eggs of this wonderful species and circulated the eggs. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My dear friends, I'm about to go to bed and sleep. But not before I have something important to do first. Because I just got mail today and it is a very small little container containing the eggs of a quite rare species of tiger moth. And before I close my eyes tonight, it is important that I take care of these. So let's get started. The eggs of this species are indeed very small and hatch in about 8 days' time on room temperature. Yep, so here are the first babies. Aren't they cute? Soon it was time to feed them. Yo, what's up, fools? Turns out my eggs have hatched and I'm about to feed them right now. So took my camera with me and some of their food plant, which is dandelion taxara cum leaves. Let's get started. Okay, so I need to borrow your eyes for a second. Take a look. Can you see the babies? So you're wondering what species it is. Well, it is the Maurica joiceyi. So that probably 99.9% of the viewers probably think, what's a Maurica joiceyi? Well, it's actually a rarish tiger moth from Morocco, of which very little is known. So for me, that's an exciting prospect. Now these caterpillars are very small, too small even, and I'm afraid when I place these caterpillars in a big box like this I'm going to lose many, because they have too much opportunities to wander and hide. So instead I'm going to do something controversial. I'm going to place the food plant, which is dandelion leaf, in this petri dish, and I'm just gonna leave them alone. The caterpillars will eventually gather on their food plant anyway, which will make it easy to replace it. I'm going to try and raise the first instar in this petri dish right here. Something I've never done before, but it's a good idea. I don't think they can escape from this. And it's nice quarantine for these very small caterpillars. It's easy to crush them or lose them if you are careless. So let's leave them here. So how are the caterpillars doing of this rare and unusual species? Let's have a look. If we take a look, we see here many caterpillars. But we do see that some part of the food has spoiled, which means I'm going to have to change them right now. But it looks good. The caterpillars have grown considerably. They are even visible to the naked eye right now. When they hatched, they were very, very small. But I do have to clean the container right now. So first I will remove the leaf litter and move it to another petri dish. And I will inspect the leaf litter for caterpillars later, because they like to hide in it. First point is to get this clean. Here we see some caterpillars that are about to shed their skins, I guess. And the rest is easy, very straightforward. Just add some new leaves, clean ones. Don't use the ones with bird shit on it and whatnot. Just like that. These babies are, in my opinion, quite fast growing. In a matter of weeks, they will be in some of their later instars. In fact, they were growing so fast, I had upgraded them to a cricket tub, which is a bigger and more ventilated box to grow them in. I mainly raised my caterpillars with dandelion, which is a food plant that many species of tiger moth seem to like a lot, as many of them are Arctiinae feeders, and dandelion is one of these relatives. Well, it's not a relative, it is an Arctiinae, and one that is commonly accepted. Eventually I separated the group into two groups that were living in separate containers. Doing this gave each individual caterpillar a little bit more space. Space is important to caterpillars. In fact, the most commonly made mistake in captivity that breeders make is overcrowding their larvae. Unusually high population densities can cause diseases to flourish. Slowly but steadily, the caterpillars of the Maurica joiceyi kept growing. They were grey, with an orange head capsule and rather polyphagous, accepting a wide range of plants that I could find. And then I moved them to an even bigger container. I prefer to use fauna boxes for many of my tiger moths and silk moths, and this was no exception. Upon closer inspection, we can see them feeding on Prunus padis, which is bird cherry, and Taxaricum or dandelion. Finally, the caterpillars moved into their final instars. Interestingly, they were covered with tufts of hair and orange patches on the sides of their bodies. In the final instar, the caterpillars spent their time consuming a huge amount of food. And then in about 5 weeks, I spotted the first cocoons. The cocoons of this species are grey, hairy and a little transparent. Inside the cocoon, it's still possible to see the caterpillars that are busy pupating, or in some cases the pupa themselves. Most of mine decided to pupate on the lid of the box, usually in the corner. After a while, I just took the pupa with my hands, carefully of course, and placed them in an improvised plastic container. Some caterpillars pupated without spinning cocoons, and here you can see a mix of pupa and prepupal larvae that I've collected. The pupa of this species are wine red and plump. They seem to hatch in about 3 to 5 weeks time, depending on the temperature, so eventually I had a lot of pupae and the waiting game began. A few weeks later, I opened the container until finally I saw that the moths had hatched. The first specimen that hatched was a male that quickly began to inflate his wings. It had a high cute factor with the hairy abdomen, small eyes and large antennae. The males of this species are very active and they fly during the day. Indeed, they are diurnal. Yes, diurnal means day active. A bit of warmth and sunlight triggers them to become active and seek out the females. The females of this species, however, are quite bizarre. This is a female, and females appear to have a gigantic abdomen. She reminds me of a giant balloon with wings. In fact, her abdomen is so big she is unable to fly and even struggles to properly walk. So what's going on here? It turns out that the role of the females in this species is reduced to almost purely laying eggs, and as many of them as she can. From the moment that they hatch, females barely move and stay still for days, waiting for a male to arrive. The reason her abdomen is so big and swollen is because the abdomens are filled with hundreds of eggs. However, flying and finding a partner is a task reserved exclusively to the males. The males of this species are extremely sensitive to the smell of the female, and if one is nearby, they will become very motivated to find her and pair with her. In captivity, this species is extremely easy to pair. The males often instantly paired with the females that hatched, and sometimes even before they had a chance to inflate their rings properly. Males only live for a few days' time, so they are in a rush to find a female. So therefore, please enjoy my moth sex compilation. Oh yeah. raised a lot of these moths. Please enjoy my army of Maurica joiceyi. My god, they're so cute. Now the interesting thing is that in captivity the species is more or less continuously brooded. If kept warm, they will never hibernate. I theorized that in the wild, hibernation is induced by cold temperatures and thus circumstantial, and a facultative, not an obligate diapause, potentially hibernating in the larval stage, since their cocoons were very thin and the pupal stage only lasted a few weeks. In their habitat, there is a brief moment of cold in winter, so I'm confident that they diapause, although it's possible to get many consecutive generations in captivity. While this species is more or less a rarity, it's also surprisingly easy to breed. So what happens next? The females lay large masses of eggs. Here we see a ton of pale, creamy white-yellow little eggs. On room temperature they hatch in about 8 to 10 days time. A single female can lay hundreds of eggs, which is one of the reasons they have such large abdomens. Before the eggs hatch, they turn black, which is a sign that in a few days' time, many babies will hatch. And voila! There you go, another generation of cuties. As you can see, I'm a father of many. And with that we will end the episode. I thank you for your attention. Now this episode is a little bit different than usual, since I included way too much humor. My other videos are a little bit more educational and dry, but I felt like spicing things up. I hope you enjoyed watching the life cycle of a rare species that not many people will be able to study. As a gentle reminder, my YouTube channel is completely and permanently demonetized. Consider joining my Patreon or contributing financially using the links in the description. Without the sponsorship of my fans and viewers, I would not be able to make elaborate videos like this. Bye bye!